What's good, everybody? So today I'll be showing you guys how to play Annie in League of Legends. So every time that I play Annie, I always start off with a sapphire crystal and 2 health pots, and I rush for Rod of Ages. I always go solo mid because Annie is a great farmer in the early game and great harasser. Her Q spell does really good damage and also replenishes your mana whenever you last hit a creep. So you never really run out of mana until you start doing heavy damage when you hit level 6. What's cool about Annie is that for every spell that you use, you gain a counter towards your stun, and for every 5 spells that you use, your next spell will be a stun. So it's a really good early game harassment tool, using your Q to stun your opponent and then following it up with a W spell and maybe 1 or 2 auto attacks. So as you can see, I'm blast hitting as many creeps as I can, but also harassing Ashe at the same time. It is crucial that you shoot as many Qs as you can towards your opponent, and so that you can ensure yourself a kill or even a first blood once you get your tibbers. Once you get your tibbers, then it's just a waiting game, waiting for the perfect opportunity for your opponent to mess up and for you to strike. So right now I'm just playing the waiting game. I see that Ashe is pretty low on health, and I'm just waiting for her to mess up so that I can strike. Now you really want to wait until your opponent is out of the tower range, so that if you were to mess up, then the tower wouldn't own you. So right now I see that Ashe just used her spell, so I flashed in, stun, tibbers, QW, and she died, and that ensured me the first blood. That's a really good combo with Annie in the early game, because that just does so much damage. And here I'm demonstrating that again, but this time with Ignite. You can also Ignite, and that will also put lots of damage towards your opponent, and they die. So as you can see there, I did a random W spell, and what that does is that it adds a counter towards your stun. Usually I always start my fights with my stun already up, but sometimes you don't have that luxury. So you see me doing random W's around the map, trying to get my stun up. During team fights, I always use my tibbers first if I have my stun up. What that does is that it stuns the whole team and puts them at a handicap. Your tibbers also does great AoE damage, so they're crippled already, and then you do your QW shield combo, and what that does is that it adds 4 stun counters, and all you have to do is just wait for your Q cooldown, and you have another AoE stun when your W spell gets off cooldown, and that really helps your team against team fights, because stuns is what wins games. If you ever have the chance, try to get the blue buff as much as possible. What this does is that it increases your mana regen, so that you can spam your spells even more and farm even better. Annie isn't really good at getting buffs, so always try to ask for help if possible. A lot of people will give it to you because the cooldown reduction is just amazing on Annie, so that you can have stuns going on all the time. So I'm heading bot to help out, but I also see that they are now going towards mid, so I retreat. I go up this cliff, and Blitzcrank here gets a lucky grab on me and stuns me. And as you can see, I only have a 3 stun counter, so I quickly, with my swift fingers, I did a QW combo, which got me my stun, and I tibbers, and I got away safely. You gotta have swift fingers when playing Annie, because in any situation, if you were to get ganked or anything, you're gonna have to have your stun up, and that can either make or break your game. You gotta pay attention to your stun counter. It's very important. Not only can your tibbers be played offensively, but also defensively to save your teammates. As you can see here, Gangplank is being stupid and I guess wants to die or something, and I happen to have my stun up, so I help him out with my tibbers. And right after that, I did a WQ combo, and I see that Ken right here wants to die, so I quickly gave him his wish. So I want to talk about items. So whenever I start off the game, I always get the sapphire crystal and 2 health pots. And as soon as possible, I always go back to base and get a catalyst and my boots. And what this does is that it ensures me to stay in my lane even longer due to my catalyst. And I always rush Ferrata Aegis anytime that I play Annie. It is such a good item because it adds a lot of beneficial stats to Annie. After that, I finish up with my boots. I always get magic penetration boots because that allows me to do more damage towards the end of the game when people start stacking magic resist because you're owning them so much. By now it should be around, I'd say, the 20-minute mark. This right here is what makes your game. This should be, you know, mid-game right now, and you should be farming constantly and getting kills here and there. After that, I always farm up my Deathcap, and I usually finish this item around, I'd say, the 29-minute mark, sometimes even sooner if I'm getting fed. And then from then on, you know, it's really situational. Sometimes I go with Deathfire, sometimes I go with the Hourglass, sometimes I go with the Void Staff. It just really depends on the situation and basically how I'm feeling and what I want to play. But the Ferrata Aegis, the Magic Penetration Boots, and your Deathcap are your staple items. And depending on how fast you farm them, if you were to get them by, I'd say, you know, 28-minute mark, then you should be owning pretty good. You should be farming really well. If not, then, you know, just jungle a little bit and last hit as many creeps as you can. And try to farm up your Deathcap. And by the time you get Deathcap, then it should be, you know, pretty... Let's just say you'll be owning noobs by then. So by the time you're entering late game, your other DPSs should be catching up to you farm wise. So they should be helping you a lot when it comes to damage. But your main objective still is to support your team with stuns and at the same time doing a lot of damage. You always want to start your team fights with Tibbers if you can. After that, do a QWE combo, and that will give you a 4 stun counter, and then just W or Q right after that, and that will stun them again, which is really good for your team. And if you're doing really well, then you'll be hearing this a lot. Let's hear that again. If you're following my tips and tricks, then you'll be owning faces pretty soon. If you like what you see, then please subscribe. I also will be doing commentaries on Modern Warfare, Black Ops, and future releases, and also Street Fighter. Thank you, and remember to subscribe. Thanks.
Victory!